Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 on the mulching job. As you saw in the last video, we are almost finished with this area over here. We got the hill done and all this around the excavator, so we're going to finish up that last little stretch back there, hopefully have that done by, if not before lunch. And yeah, then we're going to move on to finishing the pond. I have the mulcher up like this because I've been having a lot of problems with it getting tangled up by vines. And my dad told me about this metal plate here that you can move it closer to the drum to where the vines will get, pinched in there easier and actually cut. But it looks like it's in the closest position already. So pretty much anytime I see it start to suck in a vine, I just have to yank it away as fast as possible because otherwise it sucks in too much material and clogs up. I probably had to stop and pull vines out of this thing at least half a dozen times yesterday, so hopefully we won't have as many problems today, but we should still be able to get it done today. So I'm going to fire up the machine, get you guys in the cab with me, and we'll get to work. Alright, everything is finished. The camera died on me. I wanted to put it on the tripod and get some more out-of-cab footage too, but it is what it is. Everything is done. I have to say, I'm very disappointed in the cut quality on that Lofness head. I mean, it really looks like a lot of it was done with a tractor and a bush hog. And I think part of that is they told me they were going to bring me a mulching head with knives, and they brought me one with carbide teeth. Which carbide teeth, they did good on some of the trees that I had to cut down, but they're terrible for stringy plants and vines and all that. So yeah, I'm very disappointed in the cut quality of that machine. But it is done. It's opened up like they wanted it. You can see everything in here now. I left a little bit of a buffer along the fence and just kind of went into the tree line back there. So I'm going to go get lunch, and then we will be back to finish the pond off. Alright, well that is going to be a wrap for this job. I have done everything that I can on this pond, which was kind of the arrangement we had. Just, we can't see anything in there, do what you can do. I was not able to get the trees on the forebay because the machine is too wide to walk out on there. But the main reason of doing this pond mulching was to open it up so the inspector can see all of the inlets and the outlets. And you can see we uncovered a concrete pipe over there, which is one of the things he needed to see. And obviously you can see the spillway and the forebay very clearly now. And this is the side that I worked on today. I did not do this. I am known for destroying fences, it would seem now, but that was not me. It was like that when I got here. But yeah, you can see that's the bank that we did yesterday, and then that bank along there. And we did this one today. And the point of going this way was so the inspector could see this over here. We have the overflow where if the pond floods, it floods into this grate, which goes out into a ditch over there. And then, yeah, you can see this one over here. We just needed it opened up to where he could see it. And unfortunately, as you can see, I was not actually able to mulch this pond bank. And the reason for that is because on the other side, the corner is too steep. I would have flipped the machine trying to get around it. And over here, I was kind of tracking along this flatter side on the top, but then I got to where this was. And I couldn't track up on it because I would have damaged it and it would have been too steep. And I tried to go around it, but you can see here, I sank in pretty deep. I sank over a foot in about 4 or 5 feet of movement. So unfortunately, mulching that bank is just not going to be feasible. But we've got it opened up now to where the inspector should be able to see everything that he needs to see. And who knows, maybe there'll be some more work for us here once he's actually gotten to look at it and he sees what all he needs. There's a ditch on the other side of this that might need some mulching. Might need some dredging. I don't know. We will see what the future holds. But before we end the video, I want to talk a little bit about the machine. So this is a Takeuchi TB260. I rented this from my local A to Z rentals. And I've rented a TB260 from them before to do a conventional clearing job with a bucket. And it was a pretty good machine. I found that it was a little slow on the cab swing. I think it was the cab swing that it was slow on. But other than that, really solid machine, really strong. And then we have the Loftness mulcher. The Loftness mulcher did not impress me quite as much, and this machine didn't impress me running a mulcher. Now, at this point, I do have to give the disclaimer, this is the only excavator forestry mulcher combo that I have ever run, and obviously, this is a very small one. Once you get to a machine smaller than this, you're pretty much only going to be running a flail mower for the most part. But I have run forestry mulchers on skid steers before, and I knew for this job that I wanted a mulcher with knives on it because I wasn't going to be going through a lot of big trees. It was going to be a lot of small, stringy stuff and a lot of vines. And they told me that this one had knives on it. And obviously, as you can see, for those of you who know anything about mulchers, these are not knives. These are carbide teeth. Now, carbide teeth are good for two things. They are good for shredding large trees, and they are nice when you hit rock, which was nice over there because there's riprap over there. But carbides are very bad for stringy and viney material because it makes it a lot easier for the mulcher to get tangled up. I probably had to stop to cut vines out of this mulcher 15 or 20 times on this job. And they also do not leave as clean a finish when it comes to the small stuff, especially on an excavator where you can't back drag it like you can with a skid steer. So I'm not too happy with this pairing. I definitely think the mulcher not having knives was the main part of it, but then also the machine seemed to struggle a little bit, not necessarily with the power of the mulching head itself, but whenever I was on the slope, because of how heavy the mulcher was, if I tried to swing the mulcher up the slope, it had a really hard time doing it, and sometimes I would actually have to shut the mulcher off to be able to make the swing, depending on how steep it was. And then also, at all times when the mulcher was running, I had very weak stick power. For those of you who don't know, this part is the mulcher, this is your stick, and that is your boom. Your boom moves up and down, and your stick moves in and out. And when I would be trying to move the stick out, it would move extremely slowly on the mulcher, to a point sometimes where I'm sure you can see in the video footage, it would be moving so slow that I would shut the mulcher off just for a second to get it to where I needed it to be. And in a lot of situations, it was actually faster for me to just track forward than to stick out. And a lot of this could have to do with this being, these being ragged out rental units. They're not that old. The excavator has just over 860 hours, or 870. Obviously, I don't know how many are on the mulching head, but I'm not a huge fan of this pairing. I really wish I had had knives for this job. That would have let me make a much more accurate assessment. I really like Takeuchi machines. This is the first Lofness head that I've run. I definitely like Takeuchi skid steers better than excavators, though. I'd definitely like to try out some other brands and combos of excavator and mulcher, because wasn't super impressed by this one. But that is going to be it for this video. So thank you everybody so much for taking the time to watch. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.